Alrighty, let's get started here. My name is Michael Enderani, and I'm the alt of a member of the Graduates, a corporation that lives in Nullsec. We are currently a member of Razor Alliance, and have been doing pretty good there. Let me link that there for you. That's the Graduates right there. It's very interesting for you guys because the Graduates is a Eve University organization originally, who later split off to have adventures in Nullsec. They still have a lot of connections to the university. It's how I stumbled upon them, and basically anyone who has the Eve graduation medal gets preferential treatment towards recruiting. So it's a place to look if you're looking to graduate and get in Nullsec life. I'm going to ask that no one talks and mumble. Any questions you have, please put in lecture.E-UNI. And that's about it. We can get started here. So basically, we're going to start with what is Null Sec. You guys should know by now what high sec, low sec, null sec, what the basic things are. Null sec is basically any place that is 0.0 or lower. I say lower because there is such a thing as true sec, where anything is rated from negative 0.1 all the way down to negative 1.0. I'll get into that a little bit later, but Nullsec is basically a free-for-all. It's go out there and do just about anything. It's a lot of risk-reward sort of proposition here. You're going to be taking on a lot more risk because anybody at any time can show up and kill you without repercussion, but you also make a hell of a lot more money out there. So it's one of those, what are you really willing to risk? As far as what I meant by true sec, where you're going into more negative, that really only affects the rats that are out there. You're kind of looking, they're going to be a little bit more powerful in negative 0.9 versus negative 0.1. When you go out into the sites, you'll notice that if you try to go into any of those anomalies, I lost several ratting ships very ignobly out there. And it's something I did not understand, so now you guys know that, and no one's have to battle Yo Joe. So, basically ask, why live in Nullsec? Most folks that go out there, they go to PvP. That's where anything goes out there. You can have anything from frig fights, titans bashing away at each other. Out there, more stuff works. You've got bubbles, you've got stealth bombers, all that good stuff. Like I said earlier, the risk is much greater. You could be all alone out there. The locals will definitely not be friendly unless you're one of them. But you go ratting in there, there's single battleship rats that are worth over 1 million ISK if you kill them, plus the salvage. So I know guys out there can make over 100 million in an hour going out there to rat. Nullsec kind of also lets you put your stamp on the game. I know that there's sovereignty out there. You guys aren't allowed to go into Sov Nullsec space, but when you do get out there, you'll notice alliances own systems, and in fact, many of them own entire regions of space. It's kind of that I was there moment that CCP keeps talking about. When you have a big fight out there, you take over a system, you could always say, oh yeah, remember that fight in NTAC-O? Well, I was there. Gonna go into the differences about Nullsec. The biggest thing, bubbles. Bubbles are probably the most annoying thing. Think of it like your warp disruptors, your warp scramblers. Now imagine a ship is able to set up a warp disruptor in space, and anything within 20 kilometers of it can't go anywhere. It literally sets up a giant bubble in space. They also have the ability to drag you away from where you're warping to. If the bubbler is clever and he sets up a bubble in line with one Stargate to another and you warp from one to the next, you get dragged off to the edge of that bubble. Now you're 50 kilometers off the gate, you can't warp anywhere, and there's 6 hostiles. Good luck to you. Many types of different bubbles. The big one are Interdictors, a destroyer class hull. If you're thinking about getting into Nullsec, I highly, highly, highly recommend you make an interdictor your first training choice. The Saber is the most commonly used. That was my first thing. That's all I could really fly when I first got into Nullsec, but every fleet will take an interdictor no matter what. So if you can fly one of those, you can get into all the fleets. There's also heavy interdiction cruisers, also known as Hicks. They're different. They don't deploy a bubble. They create a bubble around them and bring it with them. Also, anybody can carry a mobile warp disruptor with them and deploy it wherever they want as long as they can anchor in that space. That can also be a giant pain. Beyond bubbles, you have jump bridges. These basically are create your own Stargate. You set them up by a pause. There can only be one per system. It links to another jump bridge at a certain distance. I forget what the exact thing is, but it provides a massive strategic advantage for those. I remember we had Intrepid Crossing. They had, to get from our region to their region, we had to go down this pipe. And they had a jump bridge set up at the end of the pipe to the beginning of the pipe. So if they get jumped, they can run away real fast. When we push into their region, they get behind us and we gotta take the long way home. There's also Sino beacons and Sino jammers. Basically, a sinusoidal field is anything a capital ship needs to use. Capital ships can't use Stargates, so they use these Sino beacons. Near a pause, you can set up a Sino beacon that is a permanent thing rather than having to have somebody light a beacon for you. It's basically always on. Sino jammers are the opposite. It's they block sinusoidal fields from being lit and are going to keep capital ships away from your stuff. That's good for people who want to set up pauses that are mining tech moons. We'll keep the big boys coming in from bashing down your pause. Bombs. This is another big thing. Stealth bombers, the way they're useless in anything other than Nullsec, in my opinion. It's nice to have torpedoes on such a little hole, but really your main DPS is going to come from these bombs. And basically what you do is you press your button, you launch it 30 kilometers in front of you, and then it explodes, doing an extreme amount of damage. Well-run fleets I have seen cause absolute havoc. The Graduates currently has the best bomber FC in the game, Vasimvayo. He is a monster. The man is absolutely brutal. Russian, of course. And I've seen him with 9 stealth bombers take down 42 Tech 3 battle cruisers in one run. Just absolutely insane. The next big thing, Titans. Won't believe how big these things are. They are the big daddy of them all. They have several special abilities. They're the only ships out there that can fit doomsday devices. This is basically the kill everything button. You press it, it does damage to everything around it. I haven't seen one get lit off yet, thankfully. The jump drive. Titans have the ability to kind of make their own jump bridges. They're so damn big. So, if you have somebody light a sinusoidal field for you, you can create a bridge and you can jump other ships across that bridge and then yourself. Also what's known as a hot drop sometimes. You'll have somebody go in with a bait ship. When they get targeted by an enemy fleet, they light their sinusoidal field. It's hot drop o'clock. Now you've got a fleet of Abaddons in your face. Good luck to you. Like I said, there's 2 types of Nullsec. You've got your NPC Nullsec, which you guys are allowed to go into, such as Great Wildlands. And then there's Sovereignty Nullsec. 2 completely separate animals. Basically, your NPC Nullsec is going to be low-sec plus. Everything that I described earlier works. You got your bubbles, you got your bombs, you got your titans. But nobody's claiming this territory. Anybody can go into any station. It's just free roaming. Go out there and do what you want without having to worry about stepping on somebody's toes. A lot more riskier because you can easily have a lot more reds coming in at you. So it's one of those things. Sovereignty Nullsec, whole different animal. Alliances out there, they're always running diplomacy, running fleets against one another. The metagame is just absolutely insane. I keep out of it, to be honest, because it's a lot. But it's got a lot of little less risk, little more reward because say you're in Razor Alliance, you own T-Null. You can now safely rat in T-Null and know that if Reds do come after you, you've got the rest of Razor Alliance backing you up. Hopefully somebody mentioned that Red coming towards you in that intel channel, and again, hopefully you're watching that intel channel. Then there's Outposts. Outposts basically are in Sovereignty Nullsec, and they are player-built starbases. Not like a pause where you got like the bubble around you. This is an actual station that you can dock into that is owned by players. It'll deny access to Reds, such and such. Sorry if I unkey here for a second. I'm holding down a button and it's hurt my finger. So basically, how do you get into Nullsec? Well, anybody can jump into Nullsec. It's just a Stargate. But you generally don't want to do that. There's locals, they get mad, they blow you up, they laugh at you, that sort of thing. You usually want to find a Nullsec corp. There's a whole bunch out there. Most of them are fairly hardcore. You gotta kind of find your niche, really. I found the Graduates, it's great, I haven't looked back, but there are thousands of other Nullsec corporations. Most of them are going to be attached to an alliance, and they'll have their standards for how they recruit, who they recruit, how many skill points they're looking for. 15 million is usually a baseline, but they may want more, depending on how elite they believe themselves to be. And you kind of want, like I said, you want to find your fit. Miners, yes. I know of one guy in Tigraz that has 5 ice mining alts, and he does nothing but mine ice, and he makes billions upon billions of ISK. It's a little ridiculous, but I haven't heard of any full-blown mining corporations in 0-0, but I know there are miners within 0-0, usually handled by alts. So you just kind of, and like I said, there may be mining corporations out there, and there's plenty of PvP corporations out there, and you gotta kind of want to find what you want to do. Are they a sovereignty holdings? Are they mercs? Are they just guys who go out and blow up the locals for lulls? You gotta find what you want and do what you do. Anything like that. Moving to Nullsec, a proper corporation will have some sort of logistics chain set up. I know after I joined the Graduate, about 3 hours later, I was hugging a Titan and getting all my stuff jumped into our area. Otherwise, don't think you can pick up a Cloaky and just go through there. People in Nullsec, some of them are very good. Some of them know exactly how to decloak somebody on the gate. We caught some poor bastard moving a bunch of officer mods in with a stealth bomber. Thought he was safe. 6 billion ISK lesson. So when moving, they'll have a way of to get you there. So just do with that. Plus, also there are markets in Nullsec. They're not that great. I know T-Null itself doesn't have a very robust market. Everything's marked up a little bit. Usually you can expect to pay around an extra 10%, but I've seen people mark it up to over 50%. It's a little ridiculous, but if you don't have a week to wait for your corpse store to catch up, it might be worth it. Let's see, moving yourself, if you're moving just from one area to another, say it's only 6 jumps, Cloakies do help. They are, you get yourself in a Cove Ops or a Stealth Bomber, you should be okay if you're smart, but, there's always that risk. So, and then intel channels. Any proper alliance is gonna have intel channels. So, they'll be saying like, oh, there's a gate camp in MTAC-O. Don't go to MTAC-O. Pretty simple. Always watch it. Jump bridges, again, proper alliances will have those. I know Razor itself has an awesome tool where I put in 2 systems and it gives me the whole route with jump bridges I should take to make it the shortest route possible. Even has warnings about how many ship kills there have been there in the last hour or so. And then it says here for Uni specific, always get your overview set up before you go. If you guys have joined EVE University and you haven't taken advantage of that overview setup, you are dead wrong. The way they've got it set up is pretty much a standard for fleet PvP, so get it there. In the meantime, like I said, for Nullsec, you guys do have a Nullsec camp. You're going to be taken down there later by Zekin, and you guys have a good time in there. And you can go into Nullsec whenever you want. You don't have to be a part of a camp of that. I know I've taken a few drakes into Sino just to kind of stir up the locals and see what's going on. I lost a bunch, but I also learned a lot. It's fun, if you can afford to lose a drake. But hell, just go there in a frigate. Go in a damn catalyst for all I care. As long as you have fun, who cares what you're doing? Once you get set up, especially if you're a PvPer, you're gonna need the ISK. It's really difficult sometimes. There's always, almost always there's gonna be a corporation reimbursement policy. Depending on the hull type, I know, like, say, interdictors get reimbursed a lot more than, say, a hurricane, just because they want you flying more interdictors than hurricane. But you're going to kind of have to find out how you're going to make your money. A lot of guys rat. Ratting's very lucrative, as long as you're smart. Ratting ships can get up there in ISK-wise. I've seen faction fit ratters cost over 1.2 billion ISK. But you can easily make it up there. It's not that hard. Like I said, guys getting 100 million an hour, not unheard of. Me personally, I use an alt. I do tier 2 production. And I've been set up that way, and it's been very good to me so far. I know some guys will mine. They'll have ice miners set up. They'll go Planetary Interaction also. If you haven't heard of that yet, it's basically getting resources from planets. Can be very in demand out there, especially if you're making the right stuff. You can sell it to the locals out there for their pos fuels and all that stuff. That's just about it. Like I said, with ratting, if you do decide to rat out there, it's very, very easy to get yourself killed and be shamed on the local forums, because ratters tend not to focus on local. One thing about Nullsec that I did fail to mention earlier, local chat is your best friend ever. Best friend. When you jump into a system and you see there's 6 reds, if you can't get out, don't ever jump from gate to gate when there's even neutrals in there, because they could have that bubble set up and you could be in for a bad day. Especially when you're ratting, watch that local. One guy jumps in, you think to yourself, oh, it's just one guy. I'm okay with one guy. No. It's not just one guy. It's never just one guy. He's got a whole fleet sitting on the other side of that gate. He's waiting to find you, tackle you, and then his buddies show up, and you just lost a 1.2 billion Macarial or Nightmare or some other crap. Once again, that true sec comes in while you're ratting / plexing. The lower the number, the harder the rats are going to be. Don't take a drake you take in for level 3s, and they're thinking you're going to beat up on these battleships. You won't. I learned that lesson the hard way. A fairly successful one has been ratting Gilas I've seen with sentry drones. I don't know how effective they are now that they've changed the AI, but I hear they're still pretty, they work pretty well. As far as mining, what I said, ice mining beats all. Everyone out there has a pause. Like, there's pauses all over the place. They provide safe havens, jump bridges, manufacturing places, tech moons. They all need ice. Go mine ice, sell the ice, profit. Once again, local, especially in a miner. If you're in a Mackinac, those things align terribly. So, you want to generally stay aligned. You want to watch local. The second that one guy jumps in, jump to your pause, log off, try again later. Because that guy's going to be around for a while. Hold on one second. Alright, and as far as PvP in the area, PvP can be profitable. You blow somebody up, you get half their stuff, take it away. Like I said, that one dude that decided to take all those faction mods through in a stealth bomber. He lost that, and we made about $6 bill. Missioning in Null Sec, cloaks, yeah, cloaks are fairly good. If you've got a sentry drone set up, it's kind of good, but they'll target your drones, so it might not work out. I know one of our top ratting Gila setups does have a cloak on it. I haven't ratted that much, to be honest, so I don't have the best thing for it. Yeah, going back into PvP, like I said, it can be profitable. More than likely, it's not going to be. Don't expect to be some elite solo PvP who's going to make billions of ISK because you caught some dude with faction mods. That's luck. That was just lucky. More than likely, you're going to participate in fleets. You're going to get killed quite often. You're going to hope your reimbursements keep up with that. But, going out is always a good time. Roams work very well. It's always easy to set up a gate camp. Go out there and hope to catch. I know one of the fleets I was FCing a couple weeks back caught a freighter with a whole bunch of ice on them, so that was a hefty little payday for us. Tips and tricks for trying to... Oh, hold on, let's get this question. Oh, it's always possible to go into PV or into Nullsec. Most of the folks there are there for PvP, but I know miners can make some serious bank out there ice mining. So if your only focus is to mine, might not be the best. If you can find an industrial corp that operates in Nullsec, by all means go for it. But you're gonna have to find the right fit for you because. Basically, if you join a PvP corporation, all you do is mine. They're going to wonder why they hired you in the first place. Exactly, just what Levin said. Logistics is a major part of Nullsec. People always have to move stuff. People always have to keep the pauses fueled and all that stuff. And without miners, people always deride, especially the goons on the Care Bears. But they buy their ice just the same, so they definitely need them. As far as tips and tricks out there for living in Nullsec, like I said, local. Watch local at all times. And by extension, keep an eye on your intel channels. The local is going to give you a real-time update of exactly who is in the system. Most Nullsec systems are actually pretty empty, so it's fairly easy to keep track of who's in there. 10 people is a busy Nullsec system. If you're out there ratting, or even if you're just traveling, you see neutrals or reds, get someplace safe. Intel channels, by extension, you're going to have them set up. Basically, it's where Alliance members are going to report any movement of neutrals or reds. Know your surroundings, know how many jumps people are away from you, and get out of there before they jump in the system with you. Don't wait around, maybe they won't bother me. They're going to bother you eventually. They can see you've killed a bunch of rats on Dotland, or they know there's been a bunch of people jumping in there. They know where you are. So they're going to find you. Get out of there. Get safe. Don't lose that big old ship. Another interesting thing for Nullsec, you got to be able to manage your lag. Having a good computer helps. I know some fleet fights can easily bump up to 300 people in each fleet, all of them firing those high graphics lasers at each other, so that can get pretty nasty. Basically, you want to turn your settings down to low. I know Eve's pretty, but it's not worth losing that $300 million Abaddon because you like to watch the lasers go pew. Turn off everything that's not necessary, sounds, general effects, turret effects, zoom out. That's also excellent tactical advice. And just keep it as low as possible to try to keep up. If you do find yourself in lag, and you probably will, know how to manually cycle your guns. Don't get caught continuously cycling. If your fleet commander says jump through that gate, you can't because you still got that 1 minute thing because you can't turn off your guns. that's an issue. Another trick in Nullsec, bookmarks. Bookmarks, bookmarks, bookmarks. Bookmark everything. In the area that I live, every Stargate has two bookmarks, both sides. Every system has at least one deep safe that I use. Stations have instant undocks and instant docks, where you basically bump the station, make a bookmark. I know my stealth bombers. I set up perches to watch for people. The more bookmarks, the better. If you get it to the point where you can't make any more bookmarks because the system says you've made too many, you're doing all right. Another thing is make sure your shield password is set. Don't go warp into that safe pause thinking you're going to be okay as soon as you warp into the bubble. You forgot to set your password, you bounce right off of it, and they're on ya. That's a problem. I made that mistake once, and luckily I only lost an interdictor, but it was rather embarrassing. Most alliances will have one password for all their pauses. Make sure you know it. Um, either works. I use a Covops personally just in case somebody jumps in on me, I can cloak up. I know I've got my buzzard with a couple of cap mods set up so that it is cap stable using a micro warp drive. So it's fairly easy to set up bookmarks around a Stargate. An interceptor or a cheap fast frigate can also work. Just something you don't mind losing. I know my buzzer is probably maybe about 15 mil, so if I get that blown up, meh. As far as out there while you're traveling, make sure you plan your route. Like I said, Razor Alliance has an excellent tool that lets us know the quickest way from A to B and lets us customize it. So if we see that like one of the systems we're jumping into has had 13 ships killed in the last hour, I can set up to avoid that. It's knowing your local area. Nullsec's kind of difficult to learn it because the systems don't have names like they do in high and low sec. They're always called like letter number dash something like M-O or AR-1 or something to that effect. So it takes a little getting used to, but once you're flying around an area enough, you'll get used to it. Exactly, Ace. As far as clones and implants, basically, you always kind of want to fly in a clean clone if you're planning on PvPing. I know it's great to have that +3 implants, but can you really afford to lose the 100 mil it costs to replace them if you get popped in your pod? Pod kills are very common in Nullsec because of the bubbles. While they warp instantly and it's very hard to get a point on them unless the person's being dumb, you get stuck in a bubble and you're stuck. That pod goes 180 meters per second. You're not clearing 20 kilometers at any given time. So they're going to pop you. So get used to that. Once again, the golden rule out there, do not fly what you cannot afford to lose. Even if they have a corp reimbursement program, losing a 1.2 billion carrier is kind of rough when you only got 18 mil left in the bank after buying it. Exactly. D-scam. Latency can be an issue when, in Nullsec, I know the big fleet fights can really slow anyone's computer down. CCP has tried to, counter it out with time dilation, but still, if you're going into a big fleet fight, expect a lag. Like I said, your best bet, turn off everything you don't need, turn the settings way down. The best, listen to your FC. I've come pretty much to the end of my prepared material. I'm sure you guys have a few things. Anyone got anything, or maybe anything that I've missed? Want me to go more into bubbles? Alright, yep. So bubbles are, well, that's the slang for them. They are, interdiction spheres. And what that means basically is if you are in one, you cannot jump. If, you warp to one and it's properly lined up, rather than warping to where you want it to go, you warp to that bubble. Basically, if it's, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments here. But if it's aligned with you, if it's on grid with you, and you try to warp to it, it will you'll get dragged off to the bubble. It's a very common tactic for gate camps. A bubble is generally 20 kilometers across. What an interdictor does is they have what are probe launchers. They launch an interdictor sphere probe. Everything within 20 kilometers now of that fixed point in space can't move, friendly or hostile. So, if a gate camper is clever, what they'll do is when they set up, if it's a two-gate system, they'll fly themselves off to a perfect line from the one gate to the other. They'll keep a bubble up constantly. When somebody tries to warp to them, they get dragged off, they die. No, you cannot destroy them. Let me just catch up for one of these. Does T-Grad hire miners? Exclusively, no. You are expected to PvP if you're in the graduates. But if you have an alt that mines, you can easily sell all that mining stuff to the corporation for a pretty hefty profit. Interdictor's viability for soloing, not so much. Generally, 3 of your high slots are dedicated to 2 bubbles and a cloak. So your DPS is going to go way down. Now, but like I said, 2 guys, 1 guy an interdictor, 1 guy a DPS ship, very, very effective. So it is not hard to say, hey, I've got an interdictor, I want to go out on a roam. You'll find a couple people who want to go out with you. Ships for ratting from 00 to 04. At that part, you probably could get away with a Drake if it's properly fit and you've got some pretty decent skills. If you have heavy launcher 2s, you're going to be doing okay on the DPS. If you want to just completely be better than it, go with a battleship, a rock, a maelstrom, anything like that. Gilas also work with sentry drones, but those are a little skill intensive. Minimum angle for offsetting bookmarks to avoid bubbles. Basically, your best bet for avoiding the bubble, and this is what I do. If I jump into a system, I see there's 4 neutrals. I look at my gate where I want to go, and I find a celestial off there, just nearby. Warp to that celestial, warp to the gate. You'll probably avoid the bubble. You have to literally be warping in perfect alignment with the bubble to be dragged to it. So if you have a bookmark that's, say, kilometers off the gate and true north to it, you could probably even warp to that bookmark and then and be just fine. How many times per week do I go PvP? It really depends on the week. I try to lead fleets mostly, so I'll go out about 2-3 times a week or so, but you can easily just show up and say, join our standing fleet, and just say, hey, who's going out, and you can get an impromptu roam going. You can always go in PvP by yourself, so. As far as alts, let me just finish reading that. Yeah, alt you can always attach to the corp. Like my alt has his own one-man corp. I wouldn't fly him out there because the blues will blow me up. They don't know, oh, that's Yuke's alt. No, they'll just blow me up and maybe apologize later. But more likely they're gonna go on the forums and make fun of me. I know once you get your main attached to most corporations, they'll allow you to have your alts in so you're all blue to each other. And that's basically it's only being blue will save you out in Nullsec. Most places have a not blue shoot it policy, so even neutrals will get blown up. Any other questions? Alright, unfortunately this class went a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. Oh, go ahead, Aid, please. I need to fill some time here. Ask away. Um, are we talking corporation-wise, or are we talking just physical-wise? Because physical-wise, use a Stargate. For corporations, kind of just look for a good fit. Most um, most corps will have forums and they'll have public channels that you can join. It's always good to sit in there for a week or two before you really apply. Kind of get to know the folks fit. Um, See if they're into the same stuff you are. Make sure you check the times. Australian corp and you live on the east coast of the U.S., you're probably not going to have much fun. And like I said, find out what their requirements are. As far as skill points, most folks like to see around a 15 million skill point before they start to consider a candidate, but they may make exceptions. I know, like with the graduates, we consider 5 mil and above if you're an Eve University graduate. So just stuff like that, and it changes from corp to corp. I know some corps out there that think they're elite want 50 million skill points, which is a good 3 years worth of Eve life. As far as minors, head into belts or gravitic anomalies, both really. Um, Belts are going to be a bit of a tricky proposition because the rats go to belts, and normally they bring a battleship with them. So only really go there if you've got something that can handle those rats. Um, the ice belts, most times, folks will have people who come in and kill the rats for them on the ice belts. But anomalies also work out very well for doing that. So yeah, I would highly recommend, mostly if you're going to mine in Nullsec, anomalies and ice belts. Skill requirements for Nullsec life, like I was saying earlier, generally around 15 mil, and you should be able to fly one of the fleet doctrines. That's why I said interdictors are such a great place to start, because every fleet, no matter what they're doing or what type of ship they're bringing out, needs at least one interdictor. It's how I got my start, and I haven't looked back since. Specialize or spread, it really doesn't matter. They can go through your API and find out what, but they want you to be able to fly at least one doctrine, and that's more for your benefit than for theirs, because if you can't fly in the fleets, you're not going to be doing a whole lot. You're not going to be having much fun. Yep, and like these guys are posting here, you guys at Null Sec camp, great place to start. I got started when I was with Eve University with the Low Sec camp. Had a lot of good times with those guys. Learned a lot about PvP, and was a great kick in the pants to get me moving on to higher level of PvP there. The different block of nullsec, are we talking about sovereignty versus NPC owned nullsec? Yeah. Lots of player alliances out there. Most of the alliances are now going into forming coalitions. I know Razor Alliance is part of the CFC coalition with Goon Swarm, and it's one of the bigger coalitions out there. They hold an awful lot of space. There's also folks out there right now. We're kind of tangling with Pandemic Legion. Um, we just recently deployed down in the Great Wildlands to help some of our allies from FA out, and I believe they're fighting with Solar right now, and that's been good times. We've been helping them a lot. They're in the Great Wildlands, so they're not exactly taking over territory, but they're definitely trying to keep the locals from getting crazy on them. Ratting in a system, best place to rat within a system normally is the anomalies if you can handle them. Anomalies spawn waves of folks. The rats out there will scram and web you. So if your take can't handle it, don't expect, oh, I'll just warp out, wait for my shields to recharge, and then go right back now. You're stuck, you're dead. Lesson learned. But that's also the best place to, if you can clear it out and then take a Noctis in and salvage it, pretty decent money. Talking about the large player coalitions, like I said up north is the CFC, which consists of Goon Swarm and their various allies. Basically, they're kind of the big boys on campus. We had Trepid Crossing out there, but just recently collapsed, unfortunately, because they were great neighbors to go out and get a fight with. But we kind of started invading them, and despite the fact that we told them we weren't taking over all their territory, they still kind of collapsed. You get a lot of other smaller alliances out there. There are a few folks out there that just own one system and live there, and nobody bothers them really. Most folks have just been absorbed by the larger alliances, mostly for survival. You don't want to be picked on by the big boys. And as far as sovereignty works out there, it's a really complicated topic. They really only want me to touch on it briefly. But a larger alliances do have the ability to take over territory from other places, and you get all the benefits out there. There's moons out there that you can mine for your materials for Tech 2 and Tech 3 items. You have ratting rights there. It kind of provides a buffer toward fleets roaming in on you. That sort of advantages there, and you can also even build up them and make it better to have better facilities, I guess is the way to describe it. Did that answer your question, Zekin, or would you like me to go into it some more? There are rental alliances out there, and they, I don't know exactly how it works, but yeah, I know that they will, they'll let you come in, they'll let you have the moons and the rights to the minerals, and that's basically, depending on what lease you sign, they may help you protect it, or you may have to protect it yourself. Trade hubs, it really depends on the area. I know in Tino we have several systems that are staging systems, so you're going to find most of the market is in there. I know in Great Wildlands, weirdly enough, there's almost a perfect market out there. So, it really depends. But if you can, if you find something that sells well and you can get it into Null Sec and get it all set up and without getting yourself killed, it can be a great profit. Yep, jump freighters, that's another thing. For those of you who don't know what a jump freighter is, it's basically a capital-sized freighter. Can hold an awful lot of stuff, and it can bridge itself from sinusoidal field to sinusoidal field. So rather than having to use the stargates and possibly run into a gate camp, you just use somebody who's there. And I know going from a 30 jumps to our home in Tino was only about 4 jumps using a Titan. They also get a lot better range. Another thing I failed to mention is a difference is the Black Ops battleships that are out there. Basically what Black Ops can do is they can set up bridges, just like a Titan can, except only certain types of ships can use them, such as stealth bombers, force recon, and cov-op ships. And that's the same deal as I was talking about with the hot drops there. You'll send out your scouts, you'll find something juicy, light the field, jump a bunch of stealth bombers on them, happy birthday. Planetary Interaction is worthwhile in Nullsec, very profitable out there. You don't have a lot of competition, and you get access to the more rarer materials out there. If you find the right thing and you can sell it to the locals and you can do it without getting yourself killed, PI is very, very profitable. The one difference out there is in high sec and low sec, you have the customs offices pre-built for you. In null sec, you got to build them yourself. Any other questions about living out in Nullsec? Still have about 15 more minutes to class, so I am NPC Nullsec, I believe, is they're built for you. To be honest, I haven't done a lot of planetary interaction out in Nullsec, so I'm not exactly sure how it goes. But I know they're called player-owned customs offices, or POCOs for short. And you see those a lot in Sovereignty Nullsec. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to go out with the Nullsec camp and set up some planetary interaction, you could probably make some decent bank out there. It really depends on the corp. If you have to play every night, I know T-Grads is fairly casual. They like you to play a little bit here and there, but they understand that real life happens, so they're not going to jump on you if you don't get into a fleet every night. And it really depends. I know even like the hardcore ones generally don't want you, or rather require you to be out there every night. Yes, jump clones. Jump clones help a lot for getting around. You guys, as Eve University students, do have access to jump clones by the I think it's Canning Kingdom or something to that. I forget exactly who it is, but they're a little bit out there. But if you get a few jump clones set up and you place them in strategic points, you can use them very well. What a jump clone basically is, it's another clone you park in a station. Once every 24 hours, you can transfer yourself from the clone you're in to that clone. It's also useful for when you PvP, like if I know I'm not going to log in for say 2 days, I'll jump into my clone with all my implants, get a little faster skill training time, and then when it's time to PvP, I jump back. Any other comments, questions, concerns? I'm trying to think back and see if I missed anything. Technically, it doesn't cost anything to get settled in Nullsec. I spent a lot because I bought a lot of holes when I first got out there. If you use a service like Black Frog, it can it can get a little expensive, but if you guys have a logistics service, they're probably not going to charge you. I don't know what your guys' rules are, but I'd be surprised if they did. Max number of jump clones is based off of your skill. I forget the name of it, but basically you can have up to 6 if you train the skill to 5. Yep, you're right. 5 jump clones, 1 medical. They got to be shipped in most of the time. I know in Great Wildlands, for some reason that the market's almost perfect in the area that we're set up, so we do have a lot of skill books. But I know it takes a lot of pre-planning for me because if I know, say I'm moving into large energy turrets, I don't have the skill book. I have to order it through my corp store and wait a week or 2 weeks to finally get it. So it's a little bit difficult. Nullsec has a lot of logistical challenges. If you're a hauler, you like hauling for whatever reason, you're one of those demented individuals, get yourself a jump freighter, um, jump your way out there, move a whole bunch of stuff, bump up the price, profit. Yep, you can also use the blockade runners. Those are very good. They basically can use covop cloaks and they can cloak around. Either or. Jump freighter is going to be more useful. Well, it depends. You want to be able to use folks who are going to scout for you and light sinos for you. You never want to just have your two dudes. One guy's lighting a Sino, one guy's on a jump freighter. Because if you don't have a scout, congratulations, you're the loot pinata. Absolutely. I say go right out to Nullsec. Lowsec and Nullsec have their differences, but one's not necessarily harder than the other. Um, I guess the best way to describe Nullsec really would be kind of like a jungle. If you plan for it, if you train for it, you could probably go out and take a hike through the jungle, no problem. But if you're stupid, you get lost and you get eaten. You turn into jaguar poop. Yeah, also true. Jump freighters, incredibly expensive. But yeah, the only real expense to get into Nullsec is whatever hole you want to take in there. I used to take drakes out there just to fight the local gate camps. So when I get blown up, it was about 80 mil a pop. Another one, yep, what A just said. Don't worry about losing sex status. Pod anyone you want, kill anyone you want, laugh at them, call them stupid, go on the forums and post a kill mail and make fun of them, whatever you want to do. You're not going to lose any sort of sex status. Maybe a little bit of dignity, but not sex status. Sorry, I'm trying to take a drink here. I've been talking for an hour and my mouth's drying out. Yep, running with a fleet is very important to do. Um, you generally don't want to be alone out there. I've tried the solo PvP. I'm really terrible at it. I've lost a lot of ships that way, so that sort of deal. It's still running the uni blobs. I see not much has changed. And like Ace said, sex status is very easy to increase in Null. Just shoot the pirates, good to go. Some do. I know T-Grads is, they pride themselves on being a learning corporation, much like the Eve University of Nullsec. So they will train you a bit. I know right before this class I was in a class with one of our top FCs learning how to combat probe. So, we do run classes out there. We do and we're a lot more tolerant of people make mistakes. One of the jokes among Razor is whenever they see a T-Grads kill mail, they're like, why didn't you put sensor boosters on it like the rest of T-Grads, you idiots? It's not that hard to make a living in Nullsec if you're willing to accept the risk. Like I said, it's like a jungle. Respect it, and it'll treat you right. Get stupid, get dead. Like I said, if you're out there ratting, rat aligned. Anyone jumps in local with you, get out. If you're a minor, sane deal. If you're just out there, you can make a pretty decent living out there. I know, like I said, ratters can make close to 100 mil an hour if they're real good at what they do. So yeah, it's just a matter of where you can get your skills at and how you do it. Tech 2 weapons. For you guys, I'm sure the metas will be fine. Out there, when you get into the actual Sov Corps, you will be expected to have some Tech 2 weapons out there. I'm still learning. I'm about 2 days away from Tech 2 medium energy turrets, but yeah, most of the Doctrine fits will have Tech 2 weapons on them. So yeah, we expect a long wait time if you're trying to get into those large energy turrets to fly a Tech 2 Abaddon. Also, what Tech 2 gives you an advantage over is you can use a Tech 2 ammo, which in some cases can be better depending on the situation. That is kind of a loaded question. As far as hulls and fleets, it really depends on the fleet. I've been specializing in battlecruiser size fleets and cruiser size fleets, but I know like fleets that go out on strategic ops will often use battleships. They could use dreadnoughts or carriers. I know Razor Alliance has a doctrine fit for every ship in the game, and you can basically make a fleet out of any of those, depending on what you do. But like I said, if you're looking to rush into Nullsec and you just train Interdictor, Saber specifically, and you can go from there. Almost everyone's going to need a Saber. I'm not exactly sure what Black Frog's business model is. I know they're pretty good at what they do. Um, but they may have a gentleman's agreement with everyone else to not have them blow it up. But goons being goons, who knows? Yep, if you want a PvP in a frigate cruiser, go for it by all means. Yeah, fly whatever you want to fly, man. Dotlan is a great tool to use for nullsec. Not only will it let you plan your route, but you can also look to find, like before I take out a roam, I'll see NPC kills in the last hours. Okay, that system has seen 200 NPC kills. There's ratters there. That's where I'm going. Beyond Dotland, there's not really a whole lot I know of. Oh, I know some folks have scouting systems. Hyper Desktop is a screenshotting tool. With one button, it takes a screenshot and posts it to Imgur, and then puts it into your clipboard, so you can just instantly post it for the fleet commander. I don't know exactly how Dotland knows where the rat kills have happened. All I know is that it does, and it is glorious. There's also several other scouting things out there. You can just basically copy everyone's name in local and get a breakdown instantly of how many, what alliances they are, how many are in each alliance. You can even take a picture of your D-scan and find out the composition of an enemy fleet using them. There's a whole bunch of apps out there, but you got to be careful. Don't just use anyone. We were using a Fleet Commander's app that turns out a guy was data mining off of it, and he was a red, and he was getting intel on our fleets from it. If I was to recommend a whole type to get into Null, the Saber. Yep, thank you. Exactly. Saber, Saber, Saber. Every fleet needs a damn Saber. The training isn't that bad. If you're going from a dead start, probably about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, depending on your implants. But like I said, most nullsec sov corporations aren't going to look at you until you have at least 15 million skill points. T-grads will take a look at you if you have your graduate medal and you have at least 5 million skill points. They prefer sabers. I don't know who figured it out, but they get a little bit better performance out than the other interdictors. But if you already have Caldari frigates to 5, maybe you can get a little bit better training time off of that. Also, also getting destroyers to 5 before the summer is a really good idea. With the skill changes coming up, getting destroyers and battlecruisers to 5 is actually a very good idea. Definitely. They'll take I didn't graduate from the university. I left due to some drama with the low sec camp, unfortunately, but I had 12 million skill points and they took me. So somebody liked me. But yeah, also 20 million SP will definitely get you where you need to be as long as you can fly at least one doctrine. I know, right? A large organization, not on the internet. But to be honest, I love the low sec camp. If you guys are looking to get into PvP, I highly recommend you guys get into the low or null sec camp and go from there. They're a really great group of guys, and I learned so much from them. I didn't say it, Ace. You did. Any more questions? I know we're coming up on our hour here, but I can stick around for as long as you guys need me. If you want to, I can talk about Eve all damn day. So yeah, glad to come in and talk. Eve University is a great organization, and I'm glad to support it. I'm also going to try to T-Grads does 1 second. That is the graduates public channel. Basically go in there. The way the recruitment process works is you fill out an app online. You ask for an interview. They come in, they look at you, they draw some blood. I'm pretty sure Simon Falls drinks that blood, and they decide if you're tasty enough to join. Alt Corp's not getting shot. Basically, you got to get yourself set blue with the alliance and the locals there. They have somebody who's their diplomats. They take a look at all the corporations and alliances and decide who they want to be blue, who they want to be red. Most corporations, once you join them, will let you join your alts as well. So that's generally not a big deal. I know, like, we got one guy, he has, like, 8 alts in the alliance. So and he runs around and does planetary interaction and fuels a lot of stuff for us. But yeah, basically, if you are neutral to the locals, don't go in there, they'll blow you up. Yeah, I see people, some folks will keep alts out of the alliance so they can, try to get the jump on people, but, you gotta be real careful. Like, you'll hear some guys on fleet comms, okay, we got an Atron coming in, don't shoot him, that is my alt, and one person will never listen, so. All right, if there are no more questions, then I guess I will hand you guys off to Zekin, who is going to be running a practical, trying to get a fleet down into the Nullsec camp area.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you running the class. I'm going to be putting the call up in Alliance here in a couple of minutes. So just keep an eye up on the Alliance tab, and then we'll get the X up going and get out to EZA-FM. I'll post the link to the system where our Nullsec campus home is. Before I make the Alliance call, we'll remind everyone that when we go, don't fly anything you don't want to lose, because odds are you'll lose it. And I would highly recommend everyone be in clean clones, which is clones that don't have any implants. Because unlike PvPing in high sec or low sec, where it's pretty easy to get your pod out when you die, if you die in a bubble, your pod cannot warp and you'll probably get podded.
Oh, and as far as long-term skills, right now I'm training up trying to get my battleships all squared away so I can join the strategic fleets as a as DPS rather than just an interdictor, because while interdictors are fun, they're normally the priority for most folks. So it kind of gets old getting blown up every damn time. All right, well, thank you everyone for oh, art emails? Yeah, those are used heavily, so by all means. Alrighty, thank you so much everyone. Yes, we do have French guys and T-grads. We have Russians, Scottish, Irish, English, all sorts of guys. You put a niche on it, we got them. Alright guys, you have yourselves a great day. Enjoy Nullsec, and I cannot promise that there won't be a Razor fleet waiting for you when you get down there.